It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, did you ever think that 2 years ago you would have prominent Republicans telling the world, telling New York City, you need to vote for the common sense, reasonable candidate, Andrew Cuomo?
Well, I mean, the most prominent Republican, Donald Trump.
Yes, exactly.
What's going on? This is the problem you have when you legalize it. Right here. Vote Cuomo. Was that Trump? Yeah. What? What? But actually, the reality is, and I laughed pretty much throughout the day on Monday as the stories were coming across, and the president put that on Truth Social, and I'm like, oh my gosh. And then it just sets in, right? The sadness of this is how bad it's gotten. You know? Mm-hmm. Like, hey, you got to vote Cuomo. What are you going to do about it? Nothing. Shut up and vote Cuomo. Because if you go back to the COVID years, it's like, all right, look, everything we said about him before, we know. But the other guy's a communist. That's essentially where we are. You know, the whole thing with nursing homes and Cuomo.
Yeah.
And it was like, I just thought to myself, you know, and the fallout, basically his downfall, you know, the whole harassment thing, and all of this combined, and it's, yeah, but the other guy is a commie. Cuomo or the commie, you pick.
Your choice of the C word.
Yeah, exactly. and this is where we are.
Well, you and I have talked about, why it might be going this way. I saw an article, not in the editorial page, but in the news section of the Wall Street Journal. Divided Democrats hope attacking Trump economy unites party. In Virginia, New York, New Jersey, Democrats emphasize affordability, believing voters are dissatisfied with the president's economic policies. And what you have here, I believe, in this country right now, you've had over the last 5 years inflation like we haven't seen since the 70s. Mm-hmm. And the American public doesn't believe it's over. And you had President Trump say he was going to lower prices starting day one.
Yeah.
We're still at 3% inflation on top of everything else. It doesn't matter if you believe, yes, but it's not 9% anymore. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. Look, you've said it over and over again when the inflation numbers come out. Well, the public's already felt those numbers. They have felt it. Yeah. And when you're told everything is great, and we said this, and you haven't heard them say it really for a month, we said for Republicans to be coming out and talking about how great it is to the administration especially, come out and say how great it is to be taxing American corporations, that is how you decide how an economy is going, is one of the most bizarre marketing campaigns I've ever seen from Republicans. Ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you have right now at 3%, remember, it's 3% on top of the what? 25% inflation over the last 5 years?
Mm-hmm.
Or 4 years, really, since 2021, when it really started kicking in. So I guess it would be 4 years, wouldn't it?
I went back and compared a simple receipt from the same store, exact same store, from 2020. It was August of 2020. Because they have it on file. It was an online order, and I was placing a new online order, and it was, you could go back. Oh, let me look at that invoice. Oh my gosh.
What I believe you have here, I think this is a great possibility of what's going on in this country right now. I mean, people are individuals and may have their individual thoughts, but I believe if you're looking for an umbrella blanket saying, how the hell in Virginia with every single day we see that the Democrat brand is zero. It's like nobody wants a Democrat brand. But what you have is you have all of these candidates, and Mamdani, for example, talking about the affordability. You saw that poll about young people. The majority now are either neutral or favor socialism.
Mm-hmm.
It's because inflation keeps going up. Prices keep going up. Young people are the ones that can't afford things. And you have the Democrats, and we warned them. We said, be warned at your own peril if you're going to ignore prices. If you're going to say that inflation, as they actually said, was a great thing, that's not going to help. We've given the same warning to Republicans, and if Democrats sweep or win like they're supposed to tomorrow, that's your canary in the coal mine. That's about prices, because they're not getting to that point because they want sanctuary cities, especially in Virginia. They're not getting there because they want men to compete against women in sports, even though they want all these radical things. The public looks at it and says, well, okay, Trump has fought those things really well. I keep seeing the Cornyn ad where he's still – there's a new Cornyn ad out there where he stands with Trump on the border. The people believe and look and go, Trump is taking care of the border, and he's taking care of a lot of the cultural issues, and they believe that fight is there. And they're saying to Trump and the Republicans, what about prices? What about prices? What about prices? And what do you hear from Republicans about prices? Nothing.
I haven't heard anybody promoting
Nothing.
anything that was going to, this is the problem you have too. You have right now we're teetering on a jobs situation. And we may, if unemployment ticks up, and we've talked about it. Look, if you got up to 10% unemployment, that means the overwhelming majority of people are still employed, but it doesn't feel that way. That's the problem. And when you have growing unemployment, more and more people being laid off, if you start getting into negative territory in January, by the way, when a lot of companies make cuts just on a regular basis in January, after the fourth quarter, you get into the first quarter, and that first quarter pain begins, and you're trying to start your midterm campaign, good luck. And that's on top of the prices.
Right. So, Mamdani, why is he there? Why can't the normal Democrat win there? Why is the normal Democrat, who's still radical, why can't they win? Because you've got a guy throwing out, hey, I'm a Democrat socialist, and I'm going to make sure grocery stores are there. I'm going to give you free this. I've got no ties to the Democrat Party. And in Virginia, this is about prices. This is about prices. This is about prices. There has been a lot of talk. Why isn't Trump out there campaigning for all these candidates? Prices, affordability. We've been saying it over and over again. You can't ignore prices. You can't do it. Republicans have learned nothing from what the Democrats did with inflation. Nothing. Because there is no discussion on it at all.
Well, you add to that whatever they're going to do, however big the cave is going to be on Obamacare. And it's only going to be, it's only going to get worse as you get into 26. I don't know what's going to happen, the day after Election Day. Today's Election Day, and we just began Election Day. But I don't know what's going to happen in all the races. But it's going to be interesting. The day after Election Day, the Supreme Court's going to have the hearing on tariffs. And that'll be a very interesting dynamic because I'd like to hear if anybody from the White House, anybody from the administration jumps on it in response to anything that's said during the hearing. It's not a decision, but you can tell a lot from a hearing. Sometimes you can really tell a lot from a hearing. And I'm as anxious as a lot of people are about the elections. I'm really anxious about the Supreme Court tariff thing because I'm very curious to see where the administration goes if the Supreme Court says you can't do that. And you asked the question, basically, are they looking for an out, with the Supreme Court on the tariff thing? Especially on the whole Canada-Reagan ad thing. It's like, where's the emergency there? You're responding. It's a social media response,
right? Looking at the legalities of it, but this election right now, and I hope the Atlas Intel poll is correct. You saw the Atlas Intel poll, which has been very good in past elections, shows that the race is really tightened. You saw that.
And my point on the legal point is about the elections, because then you've got to respond if Supreme Court turns you down. Does the administration go quiet, or do they keep going at again some way to enact tariffs, which is going to negatively affect pricing? It's all going to because you can't. We said it I think a couple of months ago. If you don't get something changed in this fourth quarter, heading into 26, then you're already out there on the open waters. Once you get into January, there's really not much you're going to be able to do to turn it around.
Well, as we said early on, they sold tariffs the wrong way. They sold tariffs as a wonderful nirvana that was going to bring back manufacturing jobs, that was going to, and we said, you're talking about something when you enact tariffs like this. I was reading yesterday about many of these companies that they're avoiding the tariffs, that the tariff rate is roughly about 12%. It's not what is being marketed. And they talked about the fact that, of course, corporations, it hasn't hit in some of the corporations as hard because they're dealing with Turkey. Any other country that doesn't have a tariff on at this moment, they're jumping to in order to do it. And they talked about some of these companies that pre-ordered stuff for a year. And in order to avoid it. But when you are disingenuous on economic things, and it's obvious that you are, and you're disingenuous, it's not a coincidence why the president has stopped talking about how rich the country has become by taxing companies. It wasn't selling. People don't buy that. It's just wonderful. It's incredible because of what's going on. As we said, and again, they would throw out the expert said. The expert said. I don't know many experts that said what they're claiming that they said. As we have always said, that tariffs can be used if a country is involved in unfair trading practices. If they're not following it. We thought from the get-go that Trump screaming about Canada was ridiculous. Why was it? He alone was the one that created the free trade agreement with Canada. If he was so upset at Canada, he negotiated it alone. Because it was negotiated. Congress passed it, but he negotiated it with Mexico, too. And so, as we always said, we believe that the big mistake by the administration was not focusing on getting Europe, United States, South America, Canada, Mexico all together to leave China on the outside.
Yeah.
We thought that was a huge, if you're going to do it that way and keep the vast majority, say all of these countries together, we can do this. And so you end up right now, affordability is the biggest, that's the weakest part of the Republican Party right now, because the Republican Party is viewed as Trump. And no one on the Republican side is talking about affordability. No one. No one is talking about the fact that prices are killing people.
Yeah, you can't go. You go into 26 and ignore this, then it's going to be a given that you're not going to address it. That was the whole point of you've got this last chunk of the year, the last quarter of the year to get ahead of this. Because January, people are starting to make up their minds. Well, I guess you're not going to do anything about it. And that's a problem.
Well, and I understand that they keep, by the way, the other thing I had, because they're talking about the polling and favorability, Trump is down in Rasmussen, down to 45%. I think at one point he was up to what, 52, 53%, just a couple of months ago. 866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We're Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Looking at the Rasmussen approval rating of the president, you and I have looked at the polls and said we believe a lot of them are skewed because there's such a wide, difference in approval or disapproval depending on the poll. But Rasmussen has constantly had the president doing pretty well. In fact, he reached where was he at 53% September 20th, went all the way down by October 4th to 46%, then skyrocketed for the peace deal back to 51%, and now back down to 45%. And that can be, partly the shutdown, but also I think affordability is hitting Americans. And we said it's no coincidence in our minds that the White House has stopped promoting how much they're raising in tariffs every single day, or every single month.
Right.
And there's a reason they did that. It wasn't so you can't sell that. You cannot sell that to even Republicans, Republican conservatives. Republicans, the new populists may buy into it. The influencers may buy into it on X, but conservatives look at that and say, you're promoting that our economy is doing great because you're taxing American companies billions of dollars a year, hundreds of billions of dollars a year.
It's the people that don't follow you every day. It's the people that don't pay attention to that because they're working jobs and they're trying to figure out how to pay for everything that you got to worry about. The influencers aren't the ones that are going to win you elections.
Catch Red Eye Radio live every night on the Red Eye Radio app, available in the App Store. Red Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you choose. So, I always know when the Cowboys have a home game and they lose.
Yeah.
Very irritable, frustrated drivers on the tollway headed north.
They'll have their windows down shouting expletives and...
No, just very aggressive driving. And the highway's a lot more packed with aggressive drivers.
Did you get run over? Run off the road?
Well, tailgating was a huge problem. People pulling up.
Not the good kind before the game.
Right, exactly. And as soon as I pass I-30, and I pass I-30 on the tollway, which is just about, 3 miles, 4 miles east of the stadium. So they're all coming down I-30 and get on the tollway headed north to where the rich people live who can afford Cowboys tickets.
Right.
And soon as no traffic. When I drive to work and when I drive home from work, there may be, I pass more vehicles and more vehicles pass me at 10:30, but when I go home, it's a lot less. But even coming in, mostly it's car in front of you 1,000 feet, car behind you 1,000 feet, which is great, which is why I love working this shift. I avoid traffic, but man, coming in last night, it was like, oh, they must have lost. I had to look it up, and they did lose. As soon as I came in, I go, they had to lose. It's just too much aggressive driving, like, I'm paying this kind of money?
Wow.
For this kind of crap?
Yeah,
they lost to the Cardinals? So.
Yeah, I've never seen that, but yeah, that's wild. I'm glad you got here safely.
Yes, exactly. So, when we've talked about these races, and New York City, you can say, well, okay, they're just so incredibly liberal to begin with that the Mamdani thing is expected. In Virginia, you look at Virginia and you say, well, Republicans can win, and hopefully they will. Hopefully these polls are wrong, and Republicans will win. But as you and I said, when you think that in New Jersey, when you think about the race in Virginia, Spangenberger, the Jones, and all the violent rhetoric and the belief in everything that America has rejected, you're saying, how can they be up in Virginia? They should be down 30 points based on the favorability of the brand of Democrats, because they're individuals where they don't have the anchor of Biden, and they're talking affordability every day. And that's something that every single American, after 4 years of inflation, is keenly feeling every single month. They don't care. It's like, I just, why don't they care? Economics. People care about their own self-interest. The most important thing to every person out there when it comes to voting in politics is, where am I fiscally? That's it. As we warned the Biden administration and Democrats last year, the year before that, you ignore prices at your own peril. Same thing now goes to the Republicans for next year. This is the canary in the coal mine. And you should be winning these races by 10 points, by 15 points. Based on the brand, we see Harriet looking at the brand, record lows. Well, then how can they be winning in a place like Virginia that will elect Republicans? Affordability.
Well, and, there's the quite unfortunate situation is that there's nothing the Republicans are going to be able to do between now and Election Day next year on affordability. You're not going to bring prices down.
Well, yes, you can. But it's the thing that will make it worse, what Democrats are doing.
Well, with a recession.
which is offering subsidies for everything. We'll take care of you. Mamdani, we're going to control prices. We'll have rent control, food control, rent price control, food price control by having our own things. We'll have free subways, free this, and everybody in New York State will pay for what you want. Well, that's what people want to hear right now. I wish it wasn't, but that's what
Even the people that know it's not going to work, the huge chunk of Democrats voting for him that know none of that stuff is going to add up, are still going to vote for it.
Yeah. Looking at the Atlas Intel polling, because I hope it's true. The race has tightened, according to Atlas Intel.
We're at 4.5 points on the spread now.
So Cuomo is for the first time within striking distance, and he has momentum. This is from Democratic pollster Mark Penn. The poll shows women supporting Cuomo and men supporting Mamdani.
Yeah, that Cuomo.
Exactly.
Chris Cuomo didn't jump in.
Right. I mean, this is how insane this all is. Socialism seems to be fancied by the most educated, while the kitchen table offerings of Cuomo favored by those with less education. A lot of people are unhappy with the city economy, but expect it to get better. Now, this is one of the problems Mamdani is having with people that won't vote for him, Democrats. Voters want a mayor who stays out of the Israeli-Hamas conflict. What are you talking about? This is a cornerstone of his campaign.
Yeah.
Indicating they want a mayor who will tend to the city and their problems, and they do not want an anti-Israel mayor. Most importantly, the election, this is really interesting. Listen to this. Most importantly, the election will be decided by the Republican voters. They like Sliwa, and if 24% stick with him, that will give Mamdani the edge, and if a third of them defect to Cuomo, he will win. Also, the left did not offer ranked choice voting in the general election, so moderate and conservative voters could not get a second choice. The two-way race in the poll shows Cuomo way ahead. And so the trick is to enfranchise the left in the primary and disenfranchise the moderates by draining their votes off is paying off for them. So that's in this Atlas Intel poll.
Right.
Okay, because before, until this, if it was a two-way race, Cuomo was still losing.
Right.
So that's in this Atlas Intel poll, which will be really interesting to see whether that happens or not. But yeah, you've got. Do you think that Republicans that are getting Obamacare right now and may lose their subsidies are okay with it? With the increase in cost? Are they looking for right now reform in Obamacare or just pay my premiums?
No, it's always about the money. It's always about, because here's the problem in the entire insurance, patient, and healthcare provider triangle. Nobody cares what it costs. They only care what it costs them.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, we'd already have an issue. We would already have the issue of pricing. That would already have been solved. You don't pull into a gas station, go inside and say, how much is your gas? They all advertise it. You don't even have to pull in yet. You can just see it on the sign. You can compare while you're driving by. Well, if that were the case, if we had that kind of concern on pricing, think about that. People will travel 10 miles to save 4 cents a gallon. And on your health care, they don't care. Why? Because it's only the out-of-pocket costs that they care about.
Yeah, right.
And that means, especially with something like Obamacare, if the premiums, which keep going up, there is going to be that threshold where, again, their out-of-pocket cost is going to affect it politically. And then, all right, you've got to change something. But you right now the focus is on what are you going to do about the subsidies that go toward my premium? Because I'm not going to be able to. When MTG is posting on X about it.
Yeah.
And she just came out and said, yeah, got a couple of family members who are going to be directly affected by this.
Pay the subsidies.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we go back to the poll this week, the two polls that were done recently. Americans say we need to cut the budget. And they say where? Foreign aid. All right, how much do you believe we can cut in the federal government? The average American, 40%. The only thing Americans want cut, the only thing that the majority of Americans want cut is foreign aid. Everything else, they want more spending, but they want cuts.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the American public is right now. And that's even with our criticism of Republicans and us telling them, ignore prices to your own peril. They are still dealing with an American public and an increasing number. I think MTG does represent a significant portion of Republicans that want big government.
Oh, it's exactly what we've been talking about.
Yeah.
For years now, the fiscal conservative Republican, there's a handful of us.
Yeah.
I don't know which group is smaller. Fiscal conservatives or never Trumpers. Because the never Trumpers got down to Bill Kristol and a guy he knows.
And Bill Kristol is now and always Mamdani.
Yeah.
Mamdani. Excuse me.
Mamdani.
I put two M's in there.
Yeah. It is very clear that we're getting down to that, if we're going to have a fiscal conservative con, we're not going to need a big venue. We're not going to need a big venue.
Excuse me, I'll make it simple. Bill Kristol is now always commie.
That's right. We're, again, when we're screaming about the right things, things change. I have two words on that. Tick-tock. Not that TikTok is the right thing, but when people scream about it, all of a sudden the government stops. We've got to get control of TikTok. Yeah, that's the problem. Ignore the $38 trillion. The problem is TikTok.
Yeah. So part of the problem for Republicans is the changing base of Republicans that no longer care about fiscal responsibility. Our audience not included in that.
Right.
There still are the fiscal conservatives out there, but and so I look at, I bet you, here's an interesting thing. You think MTG is getting more hate mail or more love mail from Republicans, from her constituents?
That's a good question. I wondered that the moment I saw that post that first day. I thought, is she going to get hammered by her own constituents on this? I don't know, but I'm guessing. Well, here's the deal. She felt safe enough to post it.
Yep.
To put it out there.
We are Red Eye Radio.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You saw the Trump administration will dole out half payments for SNAP for the month of November.
Right.
Getting it from different places than was originally thought they could get it from.
Right. And my question was, all right, so if you're going to dole out half, politically, are you hoping or do you already believe you're going to get this thing remedied by the 15th of the month? I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I don't know how they're going to
at all.
I don't know how they're going to dole it out. Oh, I did see yesterday. Now the Republicans want to extend this into January.
Extend
the CR.
Oh no, you know what?
Yeah.
What's funny about that?
Yeah.
I said that. It was I think it was last Friday.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was on the air or off the air. I said
we've talked about that every day.
Well, no, what I was saying is that you really got to go past the 21st. You've got to go into January and get it past the holidays.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. And this is the best ever.
Yeah.
Whoopi gets handed a legal note.
You knew it was going to reach this point. You knew at some point, because it's already went that direction when they started kind of arguing with them on the air.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to debate the company lawyers, the ones that had to pay Trump millions, probably the same guys who had to settle the lawsuit with Stephanopoulos.
And this was because of the 60 Minutes interview where Trump was asked if he knew the crypto guy that he pardoned. And he said, no, he didn't know him.
Right.
And so Whoopi came out and said, oh, he probably signed it with his auto pen. Or he signed it with his auto pen.
Right.
And just like Biden.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's what happens is Whoopi is in. And the thing is, it doesn't happen between a break. It's right there. It's so insistent that they do it.
Yeah.
Where she's talking about someone else,
and it's
handed to her.
It's
and she's
right
talking.
There. I would love the wide shot on that. I didn't see anybody have sometimes they'll do a wide shot where they're like showing the audience reaction or something, on something else. I didn't see but I'd love to see the wide shot on that when they have to hand them a legal note.
But are they doing that to purposely embarrass them? And not doing it during a break, saying correct it when you come back? Because she's in the middle of talking about something else when it's handed to her.
I don't know.
Is there an
argument to be made that if you wait until the break, it's like putting the correction in a newspaper back on the bottom of the comics page, right?
Well, we make mistakes and are sarcastic all the time.
Right. Yeah. To be clear, I was never in Aerosmith.
Or a Navy SEAL.
I was never. That one I put to rest a long time ago. I put that one to bed a long time ago. Oh my gosh.
That was still, by the way, that was still the best ever.
And he was so respectful.
Oh, because, Eric would always totally over the top exaggerate about his Navy SEAL experience.
Well,
but you were over the top exaggerating on it whenever you did it.
Actually, I don't think I went enough. I would say, back when I was a Navy SEAL, because that's, and I would often pause for laughter, and we don't even have a studio audience. Because the idea of me being a Navy SEAL is hilarious, which is the whole point. And then this gentleman calls. And he goes, look, I don't know which one of you was the Navy SEAL, but I just want to thank you for your service. And I was so crushed. That was like, the time when you're not playing sports or anything. You're just horsing around with friends and someone just accidentally punches you in the gut and it takes everything out of you. That's what it felt like times a million.
Oh, yeah. Especially,
And I was like, oh, yeah, no, I got to come up with some other smarmy, ridiculous thing, which is when I started my career with Aerosmith.
well, especially with the whole stolen valor thing.
Well, that's what
that was
what
the
took
thing.
the wind out of me. My dad is a 2-time war veteran.
Well, you know what I thought? Because every time you would say it, I would chuckle.
Yeah.
And I never thought about, here Eric's talking about that damn McNamara, laughing whenever Eric talks about him being a Navy SEAL.
Well, because then, you know what immediately went into my mind? Then if I talked about my dad's service, then if once that started going, his dad probably was never in the service. His dad, probably.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've done so much damage by trying to be smarmy.
That was so great. That,
The
look on,
I was like,
the look on your face.
Oh
when that happened.
No. We just got a legal note. Eric just handed one to himself.
Yeah, there was no legal note. In fact, the one thing that really fascinates us is I don't know in the history of broadcasting on radio or TV.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I know
that's the closest I've gotten when that guy.
Now, I know of talk show hosts that have had to read legal notes on the air, but not every week. Where something happened, they're involved in a controversy or something. Yeah. They're involved in some kind of controversy or personal life thing, and the management makes them read a legal note for whatever reason, or a programming note. I don't know whether it comes from legal or it came from so I know that's happened, but I could count that on one hand, and I've never had to, and you've never had to.
No,
we've never had to do anything. In fact, if anything ever happens and we make a mistake, we correct it immediately, because the last thing we ever want to do is be discussing something that's not true. Now, are we sarcastic? Yes, but people understand our sarcasm or our humor. The problem with The View is there's not a lot of humor.
Despite the one cast member with the name Joy, there is no joy.
Or Joy and Whoopi.
That's right, exactly.
But here it is, and it starts out, Whoopi's talking about something else. I don't know what she's talking about when she gets interrupted with the note handed to her. No. Here we go.
And the other insane thing is that when people are going to go to their meetings with the judge, the meetings that they're supposed to go to, when they're listening to what the hell, what?
I love when Sonny passes notes.
Sonny passes.
If Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yes. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen.
Oh, come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
Well, I'm sorry. The hardest thing about this job now is no one understands nuance. When you hear a joke, when somebody's fooling around, when they're not saying something specific, especially on this show. I'm very specific when I'm pointing stuff out. When I'm making jokes, when I'm making jokes. This is ridiculous.
Well, look, here's the problem. That's actually not true with that program.
No, it's not true.
And another cast member, I can say this, I've seen John Bolton smile more often than Sonny. Think about that statement.
Hold it.
I've actually
hold it, Eric.
It's true.
I've just been handed this to our lawyer from our lawyers. Do you have the evidence that John Bolton has
not what I
smiled
said.
more?
Not what I said. Our lawyers don't listen. I've seen John Bolton smile more than Sonny. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I've just never seen it.
Okay. So, all right, so we're taking this legal note now. And
see? But we just proved our point. I wouldn't have to get a legal note, would I? Because of the way I phrased it.
I I'm ripping one of my stories I haven't read yet.
Yeah, by the way, that's breaking news. It's torn news now. Way to go. I chose my words carefully. See the difference?
But the premise is wrong.
With Whoopi or me?
No. With that.
Seriously,
No,
John Bolton smiled when he got his book deal.
We're
And it was the only time, likely, I believe, I could be wrong, in his life that he ever smiled.
You have to consider that the mustache may hide the smile.
No, it doesn't. No. The mustache hides a fleet of armored tanks.
Now, the problem is with that Whoopi apparently doesn't understand, which is why they get the legal notes, is you get the legal notes because the lawyers are afraid, because of your past performance, that you will defame someone and cost them millions of dollars.
Right.
It's that simple. You say stupid and ridiculous and false things, and so you're called on it. Why? Because your producers and your management don't trust you.
Yep.
That simple.
Yep.
And I guess it is embarrassing to be handed a note while you're talking on the air.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a little bit embarrassing, especially when it's happened numerous times.
Now, do you know how she covered it legally? She didn't correct what she said. She said it was a joke, which means to say she wasn't serious about it in the first place. She reset the premise after the fact, which, again, nobody's going to buy, but that legally covered her. And they started, was it Sonny was the first? I think Sonny may have been the first to push back on it. And we talked about it.
Yeah, you could see she said, well, he didn't. Well, that's the problem. And you could see, because the camera was on her, she wasn't smiling. I don't think Sonny bought it.
Oh, no. No, I don't think so. But no, I mean, before this incident, there was something that happened.
Oh, yeah.
As it started, as the legal note thing started becoming a story. I forget what it was, but they handed her one, and she did her resting Sunny face, and it was just like you could tell she was just, angry about having to do it. I'm not honest. Quite honestly, it's. I think, because Whoopi says this is the hardest thing about her job, try being one of your lawyers on the set. Not only do they have to correct you, they've got to watch the show intently every day, all of it, and pay attention. Man, if there's ever a case for lawyers to have, and we're being handed a legal note by our producer.
No, we're getting.
It's not a lawyer.
It's an illegal note.
It's an illegal note. Oh, yeah, there you go.
They just
Thanks.
It just says on it, illegal note.
Illegal note, right. There's nothing in it. But think about it. If there's ever a case for lawyers having booze in their desk, like they did on Law and Order, that would be it. If you're a lawyer that is tasked with the unbelievable job of watching The View intently every day. That's the Siberia of lawyer jobs right there. You're really being sent out on that one. If they go, hey, we got a new assignment for you. What is it? ABC News? Oh, really? Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
The
View.
I read one post that said the producers gave her the note. New York Post is saying Sonny wrote the letter to her.
Oh. Why would Sonny do that?
because Sonny didn't believe it was a joke. She's the one that was talking about. She said the Trump family has made billions, and he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using the auto pen. How come you don't know who this guy is? Sonny said. Goldberg then chimed in and said because he used an auto pen. Later in the program, Sonny wrote, it said Sonny wrote on a note card and passed it to Goldberg as she was speaking. The other story I read said that the producers wrote it, but they're saying that Sonny wrote it. What the hell?
Yeah, I don't know that I buy that. That doesn't make any sense anyway.
Goldberg started to tear up the note and hit back at the need for clarification. Sonny repeated the clarification and said they didn't know if Trump used the auto pen for the pardon. So are they so sensitive on it that there's going to be a legal note?
Is Sonny a lawyer? I don't know. She might be. Is she a lawyer?
I don't know.
Alan's saying he thinks she is.
Well, she was so ticked off the one time that she had to read it. Remember?
Maybe they fired the
As
other
you
lawyers, and Sonny is now the legal note lawyer and co-host.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a lawyer.
Yeah, okay. I thought I'd read that somewhere in the past.
So what they probably said is, we can't afford the lawyers. We're adding more on. Sonny, you write the legal notes from now on.
No, maybe the lawyers quit.
The lawyers, it was too
Seriously, how long would you last in that job? There's not enough money. You couldn't pay me Elon Musk money to do that job. Oh. Wow. Yeah. It's coming from Sonny.
That even makes it funnier if that's what happened.
Well, how did they leverage Sonny into this?
I don't know.
It had to have been, hey, look, if one of you doesn't,
I'm gonna
pull the reins in on some of the others and watch out for the others, and what they say.
And I'm going to embarrass you on the air.
Yeah. Well, someone else, who was it that said, almost under her breath, she said, I love it. Sonny just hands you the note or something.
Yeah.
So then that makes sense, and that jives with the New York Post thing. Wow. Sonny's the new lawyer on the set. Oh, man.
We are Red Eye Radio.
This morning's USDA Farm Report is brought to you by House Products. Tested, trusted, guaranteed since 1920.
Might you have some sort of money personality? Utah State University Extension financial expert Amanda Christensen says yes. In fact, much of her career includes
helping people see how money is very much influenced by the messages and the experiences that we've had. Those messages come from various sources, certainly our families and other significant people in our circle, but also our outer circles, celebrities, for example, the media, our culture, and certainly religious and spiritual teachings influence money personalities.
And while there are 6 distinct money personalities, according to Christensen,
there's no perfect money personality. Typically with this topic, what we're trying to teach people is that you need to discover your own. What is your money personality? And then what can we do to curb the weaknesses and lean into the strengths?
the money personalities center on the areas of security, planning, spontaneity, status, giving, and a carefree approach. I'm Rod Bain reporting for the U.S. Department of Agriculture in Washington, D.C.
This report brought to you by Cenex Fuels and Lubes.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, one congressman talks about why Republicans will not end the filibuster, while there's no possibility of doing that. When you bring up these particular issues, you're like, oh, okay. Plus, we will hear from a couple in New York City that's going to vote for Mamdani.
All right.
And why.
Okay.
And why they are for government grocery stores. And when explaining how he's a socialist, they deny he's a socialist and then explains why he's a socialist. I mean,
yeah. It's so weird.
It really is.
That every dynamic about that race, about the mayoral race in New York City, is just bizarre. Really is.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. It was Representative Max Miller who was talking to Breitbart yesterday, and he said, nope, no way to ending the filibuster, even though he's a member of the House, not the Senate. He said they don't want to do it because if they did, what would happen? Democrats would pack the court immediately.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the first thing I thought of. Carte blanche, but I think beyond that, you're good. It's something that you and I have said, we've been saying it for too long now. Look, you're going to have the will of the people in a very big, solid way. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen again where one party gets 60 in the Senate, where and you've got a really good margin in the House. I mean, a comfortable margin. Remember the days, remember the times when it did happen, the number of times it did happen, where you had enough in the House to have like a Freedom Caucus carve out and go, oh, we don't like this, and a significant number of them going, oh, no, and you still felt comfortable. Well, now you're at a point where everything's so tight, and you just don't. We talked about it, I think, the night the president floated that idea. You don't have 51. In fact, you don't have even the 4 we mentioned as we got through it. It was like, oh, wait a minute. It's more than the 4. So there's 6, 7, 8 Republicans. There could be more. And it is because ultimately, if you get down to doing away with the filibuster, then it's just going to breeze through with the Democrats if they ever got to 51 seats in the Senate, and they would pack the courts the moment they want. Look, we've talked about this, how this is a danger for them to get the Senate anyway, because if they go in and then they change the filibuster, then you're screwed, and they're going to go wild. But don't do it for them. And number one. And number two, you don't have the votes to get there anyway. So, move on from the idea. The nuclear option isn't going to happen with this. We were talking earlier about.
And there doesn't seem to be. It's Trump said it on 60 Minutes. A question was asked to him, but then again, really wasn't brought up.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen. Also, the congressman brought up, he said, in guns. What federal gun? What type of
sure.
If they got the House, what kind of radical gun laws would they put in? How would they continue with their identity politics and critical race theory? What would they do with the radical transgender movement in an attempt, to change Title IX to include, all.
Well, I mean, think about it. If they could pack the courts, then all that radical stuff they could make, all but permanent through the courts.
Yeah.
And that's going to be, that's going to be a threat for a while. Again, them getting the House and getting the Senate. They could do that anyway. They could start moving in that direction, but you don't hand that to them. Don't do that for them. They're going to have to, this midterm, every midterm is critical. But right now, Doge was a failure. Why was Doge a failure? Because of what we mentioned before. There's only a handful of us fiscal conservatives out here.
And they overpromised. It was we knew that from day one.
Sure, but there was no calling for Doge to be
right
in place to begin with. There was no big outcry and push from grassroots. It got loud because those of us who were fiscal conservatives were like, oh my gosh, we're talking fiscal issues again.
Yeah.
We couldn't believe it. It was like I wanted to have a victory parade just based on that.
Right. We weren't angry about Doge. We simply said, don't overpromise.
Look,
that's right. But
do the work.
We were pleased. We were pleased with the effort in doing it. We just said, don't overpromise. And then all of a sudden we don't hear about it anymore, which is exactly where we are right now.
If we get to a point where government agencies are communicating better and there's a greater, more cemented system, a solid system in place with those agencies because everything's been upgraded, to 2025. I always say welcome to the 90s. But it just feels like everything is stuck. And Elon Musk, when he was at Doge, he was pointing that out. You got huge communications problems, and a lot of that goes back to the methods and the technology combined. And if that improves, then, that'll be a positive. But on the fiscal matters, again, the group has to be louder and or bigger. And right now, it's pretty small, and it's quite unfortunate, but that's where we are. It'll be interesting to see because Mamdani takes New York City. The question will be for the party, well, once his policies start to fail, we can carve him out. If he wins, okay, then he wins. And then we can kind of carve him out. We don't have to go full commie just yet. But it depends on if his term as mayor has legs. Adams didn't, because Adams started going against the party fairly early. He actually went to the courts at one point and asked for the courts to undo the sanctuary city policy that his own party, Adams' own party, put into place. And the courts were like, no. But if Mamdani carries in terms of his popularity, because that's all the Democrats care about. It's a popularity contest on every level. If they can, in fact, if they can get back if they could get back the rock star thing in their party, I think the party itself would see that as a massive plus because they don't really have a rock star. Not that Mamdani would be a future on the national level in a big way, but necessarily. But it's, again, where can you get the wins? And if his policies start to fail, which ultimately they will, it just depends on how quickly they're implemented. And if they start failing right away, then as a party, you start to carve them out going, well, he was mayor, the people elected him, and he was duly elected, and blah, blah, blah. It didn't work out, and blah, blah, blah. He was facing a lot of headwinds, blah, blah, blah. You make excuses, and then you go on about your business as a party. But, again, if the popularity thing is, and people are going, oh, we love him, we love him, we love him, even though they're heading for disaster, it's still going it's going to carry the party.
When let's not, though, and I don't mean you, but just in general, the way the media is covering him, let's not believe that, Mamdani is the greatest threat of communism. We already saw it with the Green New Deal. We saw it on the federal level with AOC.
Oh, we saw it with Barack Obama when he talked about, how eventually you could get to the point of the government controlling the means of production.
Yeah. And so people understand it, because there's been a lot of talk of socialism versus communism. Socialism is government control, wanting more control of the capital, which means the redistribution of income, take from the rich, give to the poor, but you still have private property. Communism is when you get to the point of, and that's why they look at Mamdani and say, okay, he's a communist. And with AOC, the same thing was thrown out there, because she was talking about the fact of making it impossible. When you look at how the Green New Deal would have been done, you would have made it impossible for companies to make a profit, and therefore nationalization, which means not just government control of capital, but government control and government ownership of private property. And that's where you start getting into, communism.
Right.
But the Green New Deal would have gotten you there, when we broke it down, said, well, here's what they're saying. Well, you can't, no companies, a company's going to go under. Stockholders are not going to continue to have their stock in a company that can't make a profit.
Right. Yeah.
They're going to be gone, and therefore the state would have to take over, which is the back door to communism, or the front door to communism. Destroy capitalism.
Yeah.
And actually the front door. It's not going in the back door.
Right.
It's going right in the front door. But I'm going to play this audio cut, because these are two people being interviewed by a reporter. They support Mamdani, and it's just, hang on one second here. I just lost it. There it is. It's back again. And this is pretty hilarious. I'll just play it. We'll comment after. Here we go. All right, here we go.
And what about the government-run grocery stores? Do you think that that's a model that could work?
Yes.
And
I
why?
think there's too many hungry people and too many potatoes here that are $5 a pound.
Yeah, you got to lower the prices. Is there anything else about Zohran that gets you excited about him?
I'm excited that he gets young people excited, and I'm excited to see people standing in line, hopefully, to vote for something new.
And last thing, the number one comment I get on some of my videos is that socialism doesn't work. It's been tried many times. Why do you think it'll work?
This isn't socialism he's talking about, social democracy. Government should work to encourage people to thrive and be successful. Everybody thrive. It shouldn't be a matter of it should be equality, not supremacy. It should be a matter of bringing everybody up and not just having a few people with entirely too much money and too much decision.
Do they even know what the hell they're talking about?
No, but when she said, I'm excited that people are standing in line, I thought, they'll be standing in line if he gets his way for their groceries.
It's not socialism. Of course it's socialism.
Of course it is.
Of course it's socialism. God. Socialism / communism, where they want to head. It's like they don't even know and that's an older couple. They look like they're in their 60s.
Right.
They have no clue. They have no clue on economics. None. Zero.
Right.
They are as ignorant as you could possibly imagine when it comes to economics and understanding different economic systems. Completely and totally ignorant. They don't have a clue. They have and to be they look like they're in their 60s. They could be in their 70s. But they look like they have never had a class. They sound like they've never had a class on economics ever.
Well, because she talks about there's, pay the complaint about paying $5 a pound for potatoes. All right. Well, with all these programs, who pays for it? Who's actually going to pay for it?
Yeah.
Are there enough mega corporations and billionaires in New York City to pay for it? Because ultimately they know. I think if you asked them, I think I know what the answer would be. It would be yes, the billionaires and the companies, and we're going to need help from the state. We'll need basically Hochul to get in line the way Andrew Cuomo had to back in the day when he was saying the things she's been saying in recent days, but eventually the legislators said, nah, we're going to do this. Yeah. And, this is, again, put your blinders on, whatever, just live in a delusional world, and that's exactly what you just heard.
We are Red Eye Radio.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Last week, Glamour Magazine UK found itself on the receiving end of a backlash from women across the world when it made the decision to feature 9 men on the cover of its 2025 Women of the Year issue. Women admit it. Men are just better women.
Look, you had a good run.
Yeah, it was nice.
But it's over.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.